On paper, UFC Vegas 104 was a pretty bad fight card, but in execution, it was absolutely phenomenal. We had 13 fights, 9 finishes, and 6 underdog wins. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks. I'm going to recap the entire UFC Vegas 104 fight card. Before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. As you can imagine, when 6 underdogs win, you have pretty interesting betting results. Overall, pretty blah night. I specifically sucked. My bets were just absolute horrendous. Jakey Boy hit yet another underdog lock of the week. Bet Sam continues to drag us to the promised land. Bet Sam specifically was up 2.5 units. He does his slam of the week where he takes a bet and he hammers it with 2 full units. That was Kevin Vallejos wins inside the distance. That hit. Obviously, Jakey Boy's lock of the week hit. Jacob's lock of the week is hitting at a better accuracy as of the last couple of weeks than my safety parlay. His lock of the week is absolutely insane. It was Sam Hughes this week. He got her at plus 215. A couple of really cool prop bets this week. Bet Sam had Damon Blackshear by submission. He got that at plus 300. Waldo Cortez by knockout, plus 195. Overall, a really fun fight card to watch and a really fun fight card to bet on if you had a couple of these wild prop bets. Here's a closer look at Jacob's underdog lock of the week streak. If you don't know what this is, he picks an underdog every week. Has to be an underdog. Calls them his lock of the week. And this was the biggest one of the year so far. Sam Hughes at plus 215. If you put 1 unit on every single one of his underdog locks of the week, you would be up 111% ROI. He has hit 6 of the last 7 underdog lock of the weeks. Think about that. That's an underdog on every single card. And obviously a card like this, when you had 6 underdogs win, it seems obvious. I promise you, it is not obvious. Jakey Boy, with his insane getup in this picture, absolutely crushing the lock of the week. And it's wild how streaky this sport can be. Just a few weeks ago, before this streak kicked off, the fade of the week, and people were railroad. Now here he is, 6 of the last 7, picking 1 underdog every card. And let's see who he picks for UFC London. I already know, but you're going to have to wait to find out. We do have an app. Every single pick, every single bet, everything we do is available inside of our app. All of the tools, it's not just copy-paste bets. There's some tools. You can do tape study, everything you could ever want or need heading into a fight week. Just search We Want Picks in the App Store. You'll have it ready to go. Here's the next 4 fight cards. If you go to WeWantPicks.com right now and you unlock all the picks, all the bets, everything for UFC London, you're not only going to get UFC London, you're going to get UFC London, UFC Mexico, UFC Vegas 105, and UFC 314 will be the tail end of that membership. Go to WeWantPicks.com, unlock all of it right now. It's only freaking $10, 10 literal dollars. And if you're like, man, Angelo, your bets are not very good. Well, thank God premium isn't just me. And thank God for Bet Sam. Honestly, go to WeWantPicks.com, use his code. He gets all the money. Well, not all, but he gets a giant chunk of that money if you use his code. So use his code. Get him paid. He's the one killing it right now. That's WeWantPicks.com. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights. I knew I was screwed. I knew I was cooked. I knew my night was going to be wild when right off the rip, this chick got knocked unconscious. There was still some hope, but right off the rip, when Yuneisy Duben got smoked, I was like, okay. And yeah, she's a massive underdog. I did not bet on her to win. I wasn't going to bet on her to win. In fact, I sat in this chair and told you to bet the under 2.5. I was like, this is a lady fight. The under 2.5 should have some good value. Go that direction here. What I was shocked at is how quickly she got finished. And we talked about there's a lot of question marks, right? We knew how tough she is offensively. We've seen her land wild. We've seen her knock people out as a plus 500 dog. So I said, these odds are wide. I have to assume she's insanely tough. Turns out, hittable as shit. Just absolutely hittable. Every single thing that Carli Judice threw was just bouncing off of Yuneis's face. Everything. Everything. I was hoping that Yuneisy was going to be like, if she got outclassed, was just going to be dog tough, right? That's what I was hoping. Like, all right, she got smoked, but she's super tough. So my bet was maybe Yuneisy wins by finish, but if she loses a decision, if she gets smoked, it's fine. I'll get a refund. I didn't see her going out like this. Holy crap. And credit to Carli. Carli played this perfectly for a woman who was only 4-2 in her MMA career. 4-2. For a woman who had not found success in the UFC just yet, she looked great here. She played this perfectly. She fought a brawler, and she fought that brawler technically. She stayed on the outside, used that long, skinny frame to touch her up from distance, threw different creative strikes, didn't engage in a pocket striking match. She did a phenomenal job. Carli looked good here. No wrestling. Didn't have to worry about a single thing. Could just be the better striker, and she absolutely was the better striker. I mean, Yuneisy, all Yuneisy has is just big one-punch knockout power. And honestly, getting the Contender Series win the way that she did probably is going to hurt the rest of her career, because now everybody knows she's just going to bomb overhands. Just stay away from those and you'll be fine. But this was the nail in my betting coffin tonight. After this, I still could have been up money. But this was like, okay, that's basically it. Because my win inside the distance decision no action bet on Yuneisy was a quarter of a unit, because the odds on that were nuts. This, however, my win inside the distance decision no action bet on this woman laying down unconscious pretending to be a chalk outline, that was a full unit, and it was minus 115. In my mind, I thought at the very least, this fight goes to a decision. I get a refund. Best case scenario, Josiane stops Priscila. And I know her nickname's Zombie Girl. I get it. I literally thought it was because how she looked, not how she fought. I thought it was because she looks like you dug her up. That's what I thought this was. I didn't think it was like, oh, she's the most durable person in the world, because she's been finished a shit ton. So it turns out, no, it's because she can take some shots. Credit to Priscila. She did a really good job in this fight. I've broken down Josiane Nunes many times. And every time we break her down, I say how insanely short she is. I compare her to a bowling ball. And I say it doesn't really matter, because she does a good job just closing the distance and bombing away. And in this fight, she actually did struggle with the distance. This is the first time I've seen Josiane fight where she could not close that gap. And it's because Priscila did a really good job staying as tall as possible. She didn't lend down. She didn't get into her. She stayed as tall as possible, pumped things from the outside, and threw hard as hell. And every time Josiane came in, she ate a big shot. And that's what this was. This was a slug fight, for Christ's sake. Every week I sit here, I explain what a slug fight is, and every week you guys are shocked. Watch this fight back. A bowling ball versus a previously dead person, slug fight. They just like woof, 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 bombing away. Under 2.5 hit here as well. And frankly, I need to drink my own champagne and eat my own dog food, because here's a 20-second clip of me in this chair a week ago filming the UFC Vegas 104 breakdown. Let's all listen to this beautiful, handsome man. And we might have the unicorn of women's MMA bets where we do the under on 2.5. Let's see what the lines are. That might be a nice little opportunity. Put whatever you want in that long pause with your imagination. But I think the only bet that would make sense here could be a round under. We could have 2 female fights on this card with neither one of them going to a decision. Unbelievable insight by the big man. I basically said both of those lady fights are not going to go to a decision, and you should probably bet on it. Ask me if I bet on it. Ask me. The answer is no. I got a vasectomy last year. I've got 2 little girls, love them to death. But I got a vasectomy. I think more than just like cutting the line that carries the future babies through, I think they removed my nuts. Because the fact that I sat here, said those were good bets, gave those good bets to 15,000 people, whoever the hell, 30,000 if you include the Tuesday video where I repeated it, and didn't do anything with it, he took more than my future babies. He took my nuts. They're gone. I have no nuts. I am not a brave little soldier. I'm a scared little boy who passed up on an unbelievable round parlay, or even 2 unbelievable plus money round bets that I sat here and told you to do, and I didn't do them. What an absolute coward. But then we moved on to a couple of men. We had 2 first-round lady finish fights. And, fun fact, they told us on the broadcast, that was the first time in the history of the UFC where they had back-to-back first-round women finishes. Ever. And then we came to this fight, and this fight was spectacular. This was a fight that did end by finish, but it was later in the third round. We had Andre Lima taking on Daniel Barez. Andre Lima won this fight everywhere. He was literally better everywhere. And I picked him to win, but I thought, that's a Chael Sonnen impression, I thought he might have some issues with Daniel Barez's forward pressure because in Andre Lima's last fight against Felipe Dos Santos, he did not like that pressure. He didn't even give Daniel the opportunity to have pressure. He was the one pressuring forward. He was immediately touching up Daniel, blasting leg kicks instantly. Like he set the tone instantly by drilling Daniel's legs. And once that happened, Daniel's momentum his movements were a little off. He wasn't able to be his normal forward pressure kind of self. He couldn't move quite as quick. And Andre Lima just absolutely ran through him. He ran through him. Yes, this fight went 3 full rounds. At one point, Daniel Barez had a beautiful takedown. And it didn't last very long. Andre Lima ran through him. He was the far better striker. They ended up in a scramble. They ended up on the ground. He got his first ever submission, not just his first submission in the UFC, his first ever submission. He ran through Daniel Barez. Andre Lima was a minus 500, and he looked it. He looked absolutely spectacular in this fight. So the question is, how good is he? And now, how good is Felipe Dos Santos? If Felipe Dos Santos was giving him such a hard time that he barely got any strikes going, Andre Lima landed more strikes in the first round of this fight than he did in 3 rounds of his last fight. That's how good he looked. And Daniel Barez isn't just like dog shit trash. He's an aggressive dude. He's got some skills. Andre Lima looked absolutely phenomenal. He's undefeated. I am curious to see what his next matchup is. I think the UFC needs to play this right. They need to play it right. Let's keep getting him more wins. Let's go back to old school WWE or WCW where it was Goldberg. What was Goldberg's record? Like 1,000-0? It was a 500 win streak, something dumb. Do more of that. Do more of that. Give us more of these bullshit matchups. I know half of you are going to hate this take. Give us more of these bullshit matchups so we can build these guys. Let's get the crazy records going. Like, if there's some influence UFC can take from boxing, it's that. And then when they lose, it's okay, right? Don't just abandon ship. That's the problem with boxing. Boxing does a great job building people up. They do a phenomenal job taking somebody, getting them a ton of wins, convincing you they're the best in the world. But then they do a horrific job when they lose, abandon ship. This guy sucks. Nobody should ever watch him ever again. So I think the UFC should adopt some of that promotion style, and they should build some of these fighters up. And not just 2-3 fights, not like whatever is, oh, so-and-so is being protected. Dude, no. I'm talking like, let's get Andre Lima to 20-0. Pay him well. Get him a bunch of win. And it's much harder in MMA than it is boxing because there's so many ways to win and or lose. But I think the UFC, who objectively has a superstar problem right now, can do really well convincing us some of these people are superstars when they might not be. And this is the path. Long rant there. You guys are going to, I can see the comments now. You guys are going to fucking hate it. Then we had another lady fight. This is Sam Hughes on top, almost finishing Stephanie Luciano. And Sam Hughes won this fight the way Sam Hughes wins any fight, with durability and pressure. And if this wasn't the perfect storm, I don't know what is. Because Sam Hughes got her coach, Saif Saud, his 100th UFC win. This is his 100th UFC win. And I saw an interview with him, with MMA Junkie a month ago, something like that. And he said Ryan Spann was the one insisting he was going to get him his 100th win. Turns out Ryan got smoked. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it was Sam Hughes who did it. Sam Hughes who went to that gym, who went to Fortis MMA in Dallas, 0-3. 3-fight losing skid, went there and rebuilt her career. Now here she is. Is she the more talented fighter in the octagon? Almost never. Is she the hardest hitter? No. Fastest? No. But she works her ass off, has insane cardio, and is ridiculously durable. And that's exactly what we saw in this fight. Just forward pressure, durability, and an unwillingness to quit. I thought this scorecard was correct. I thought she won this fight. I was, honestly, when they said a split decision, I was like, oh, Jacob's about to get screwed. Because Sam Hughes, plus 215 when Jacob bet on her. Plus 215 when he put the bet on WeWantPicks.com. If you want to check out the UFC London bets, they're already up. Plus 215. When he put the stamp on it and said, this is my favorite underdog on the card. And then the odds started to shift. Some money came in on her, which understandably so. But then when we got the fight, First round was pretty close. Good back and forth round. Stephanie Luciano looked like she was making some stuff happen. Second round was a mauling. This was the second round. Clearest round of the entire fight. Absolute mauling. Very clear Sam Hughes round, without question. You could argue this round was a 10-8. I thought this was a finish here. The only bet I hit on the night was an over 2.5 parlay with this fight and the Alexander Hernandez fight. And this right here is about the second that I was like, well, there goes that bet too. There's this night. The only way Stephanie got out of this is because she sort of finagled her body a little bit, got her toes in the cage, and pushed off and circled out. That's how she got out of this. She was almost finished here. And the new 10-8 scoring criteria is about almost finishing somebody. It's not like what it used to be when I was watching this. I mean, I still watch it now, but you get the point. When you basically had to kill somebody to get a 10-8 round. It's not like that. Now, they should be easier to come by. And if this is not a 10-8 round, what is? Sam Hughes came forward, got the takedown, mauled her, controlled on top, big elbows on top. Was there a crucifix, or am I mixing up this fight with another fight? There was a crucifix in this fight. The rear naked choke. Like this second round was a mauling. Third round, again, was close. First and third were close. They gave it to Sam. Ultimately, I think the forward pressure was the difference. She was making things happen. Stephanie Luciano did not quit on herself. She did not break. She came out in the third round after this, after almost getting finished, to the point where the announcers were like, if she makes it through this round, this is what she has to do in the next round. Like, it was almost a foregone conclusion that Stephanie Luciano was going to get submitted in this round or TKO'd. But she came in the third, wiped away everything that had just happened. Started fresh in the third. Looked pretty good. But the Sam Hughes durability, the pressure, all made it happen. Great for Sam Hughes. Great for Sam Hughes. Like, to not be physically gifted, meaning she's not huge, she's not wildly fast, not wildly strong, just works hard. You have to root for somebody like that who earns every single win with just legitimate, genuine hard work. Good for Sam Hughes, good for Jakey Boy, and good for that lock of the week. Then we had the biggest underdog on the card get a win. And this is not the first card this year where the biggest underdog has gotten a win. Josias Musasa was what, minus 800, minus 900? I think he was 900. Minus 900, a 9-1 favorite coming into this fight. And he lost every second of this fight. Like, this wasn't like, oh, he got caught. No. He lost bad. Now, it opened up with Josias landed a few one shots, right? No combination, just one nice punch. Carlos Vera had a few flashes of absolute jiu-jitsu nerd. A couple of flashes of an autistic child in a tumble class. And I know that because I coached wrestling forever. And we would do tumble classes for the autistic kids in the neighborhood. And they would go to tumble class, a lot of like gentle rolling and stuff like that. And that's exactly what we were starting to get out of Carlos Vera. There was a few times he did a front flip, like, good job. Nice. Hey, nice front flip, Carlos. No reason. Just did a random half a somersault in the middle of the octagon. There was a few times where Josias like tripped him, pushed him, shoved him down, and Carlos was on his butt like, let's go, baby. And Josias did the right thing. He's like, no, fuck you, dude. No. Get up. This is weird. But Carlos got this done on the feet. The one place that Josias was supposed to win this fight. And it wasn't just one lucky strike. Because prior to this big right head kick landing, which ultimately dropped Josias, and then Carlos snatched his back and got him submitted. Before that, there was a spinning back kick that cracked him flush in the head too. Carlos Vera, you could argue, won the striking exchanges, certainly won on the ground. Carlos Vera won this fight. Clear as day, got it done, wasn't even close. I don't know when me and everybody else are going to learn that you don't bet on UFC debuts. I don't know when we're going to learn. And there was a couple UFC debuts on here that were worth it, and there were some that were not. So I don't know when, but at some point in time, we're going to figure out when and how. At some point. I don't know when. It wasn't this card, I can tell you that much. Then we came to a pretty straightforward fight. First of all, Jacob owes me $500 for this fight. I haven't gotten it yet. He's usually pretty good about paying his debts. So we'll see. I have not gotten this yet. And until I do, he's going to hear from me. And there may or may not be a problem between him and I, but he owes me $1. $500 to be exact. Jakey Boy sat here and insisted that AJ could win this fight. Actually, he doesn't owe me $500. He owes me $250. Jakey Boy insisted that AJ Cunningham could win this fight. And frankly, he couldn't. He couldn't. His biggest asset here was that he was enormous. That was the number one thing. AJ Cunningham is a giant dude. AJ Cunningham's coming down to 135 pounds. AJ Cunningham. He's going to be able to get this done because he's so enormous. He trained with Bryce Missile. So what, dude? The guy was clueless. Absolute dog shit clueless in the wrestling. Dog shit clueless when it hit the ground. Dog shit clueless in the striking. He didn't make anything happen. He did nothing. He had no success anywhere at any point other than a 30-second triangle. There was a 30-second triangle where you're like, uh-oh. And then Seung Yu managed to get through it. Wasn't a problem for anybody. And that was it. And it sucks because AJ Cunningham being as big as he is at 135 pounds and still not being able to defend takedowns is crazy. That's crazy work. It's crazy. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a skill gap. I don't think he doesn't know how to defend takedowns. I guarantee if you talk to some of his training partners, it's like, dude, this dude's getting rounds in. He's looking good in gym. The problem is when you cut that much weight and you transform your entire body and you make that weight for the very first time, then you go into that octagon for the very first time at that weight, you have a bit of an adrenaline dump. You have a situation where you're not really your full potential. There's no way you could have 3 full rounds of hard cardio dropping multiple weight classes. There's no way. And that's kind of what we saw. We saw somebody a little tentative on the feet, somebody who wasn't really willing to engage. When he fought Ludovic Klein, he moved forward, got right in that dude's face, didn't care about a thing. When he fought Seung Yu, that's not what we got. That's not what we got. He fought Ludovic Klein on short notice. If anything, this is the fight where he should have moved forward and been a man. But he didn't, and it has to be the weight cut. Like, it is possible to cut too much weight. It's very possible. And he didn't like full-blown death gas, and it wasn't like an obvious, like, oh, this is the... But the reality is he cut too much damn weight. You should not be getting bullied by somebody this much smaller than you. Seung Yu looked pretty good. Didn't even need to wrestle as aggressively as he typically does, but he got it to the ground. When it was on the ground, complete control. There was almost no success in the AJ Cunningham side whatsoever other than an almost triangle at one point. This was the only fight in the card that was kind of boring, and it was boring because it was one-sided. The other fights that were one-sided were finishes. The only other couple of decisions were absolute bangers. This was a boring one-sided fight, but 13 fights, 12 of them were good. You get what you get. Then we had Waldo Cortes-Acosta finishing Ryan Spann. I thought the general consensus, a lot of people picked Waldo Cortes. I picked him. I think Jacob and Betsam both picked him. I don't think there was anybody in the We Want Picks community, like the premium community, that picked Ryan Spann. But I did see a lot of comments. My lock of the week's Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann should be the lock of the week. Ryan Spann, the underdog. And you know what? I understand, right? He's a big, powerful guy who has had plenty of success in the UFC. And a lot of people just don't like Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I don't know why you don't like him. I can understand not liking him like in his UFC debut when he was literally doing the salsa dance after mediocre performances, but that's not who he is anymore. Now he's like a big, fast, athletic heavyweight that looks good. He bombs away. He's not afraid to engage. He's not just an outside pitter-patter kind of guy. Waldo Cortes-Acosta is genuinely good. He is a good fighter, and he looked good in this fight. Dude, he had Ryan Spann, an established UFC fighter. Ryan Spann, an accomplished UFC fighter. He had Ryan Spann faking fouls to get time. That's literally what it is. Oh, he got my eye. They show the replay. That was a punch. Oh, my nuts. Dude, he punched you in the stomach. He was literally faking fouls to buy time. That's how poor things were going for him. And this was at heavyweight. Ryan Spann's a light heavyweight. And he was like, I don't want to, you know what? I'm going to be better at heavyweight. And then typical bullshit narratives, right? That's just how this goes. Everybody's the best shape they've ever been in. Everybody feels the best they've ever felt, right? And the announcer's like, when we talked to Ryan in the meetings, he said, and his teammates told us, he's faster at heavyweight than he was at light heavyweight. And we were all like, oh my God. If he's so fast, he might win this fight. Nah, he didn't look fast at all. He didn't look fast at all. A former baseball player in Waldo Cortes-Acosta was way faster, way more accurate, seemingly hit harder. Waldo Cortes looked phenomenal in this fight. Ryan Spann came out, landed 2 big leg kicks, and that was the end of his success. The over 1.5 did hit here. A bit of a feeling out process. They were slinging. To Ryan Spann's credit, they were slinging. He wasn't afraid to engage. The problem was he would engage. It didn't quite go the way he wanted it to. And then, an eye poke. A nut shot. Lots of bullshit. Lots of bullshit. I was worried they were going to take points, and even if they didn't matter because it ended by finish. The takeaway here is Waldo Cortes is very good. Like, he's very good. He was big. I was surprised. He's just thicker. He's big. He's fast. He's light in his feet. Waldo Cortes is sneaky good. And people aren't giving him credit, and he's still not going to get credit even after this win. And this is fine. Remember that fucking random speech I just did 4 minutes ago talking about the UFC could take a page out of boxing's book and just build people up? Just give him fights. Just give him fights. Let him win. Waldo Cortes can be that guy at heavyweight. Just keep giving him middle-of-the-road guys. Let him rip him to shreds. Build that highlight reel. And then convince us he's one of the best in the world. And then let's give him something. Because he's a guy that could do it. Speaks Spanish, good-looking dude, turning into an exciting fighter, not afraid to engage on the feet. He's somebody you can market, and he's good. But that's not what the UFC is going to do, is it? We all talk about how great the UFC is at marketing and building their stars. The UFC is phenomenal at certain marketing tactics. When they put a fight on a card, when they make a main event, when they make a co-main event, they're phenomenal at convincing us that it matters then. What they have not been good at as of late is building the next generation of stars. Who the hell's the next young star? And don't say Tom Aspinall. A, he's been around for a while now. He's not new. And B, I don't know if Tom Aspinall actually sells pay-per-views. I know people love him. They think he's going to be, but there's a difference between selling pay-per-views and just being a fan favorite. The UFC needs to figure out who the hell this next generation is. Justin Gaethje's going to be gone soon. Dustin Poirier's gone after his next fight. Dan Hooker's hand, he just said he's done forever. Alex Pereira just lost. If they do that rematch, he's losing again. John Jones fights once every 3 years. Who is the UFC's big star? You need to start building something. If that means some funny games with some funny matchups to build some fake records, let's do it. I'm all for it. And if you're like, bad take, Ange. Oh, funny you say that. I have a show on this channel called Bad Takes. Me and former world champion Josh Thompson give our bad takes. We did this exact subject, honestly. The UFC lacking superstars. Watch that video. I am curious what people think. And before you just immediately, genuinely, if you watched wrestling in the 2000s, when was Goldberg? Late 90s, early 2000s? That was the whole thing. His undefeated streak was the whole thing. Bullshit matchups. He'd go out there, spear somebody, leave. And they built it up. It took years. And they built it up and they turned him into one of the biggest superstars on the planet. And obviously, that's fake. Sorry to break it to you. Especially if you have an extra chromosome. I just rocked your world by telling you that wrestling was fake. And I apologize. But they could do similar things. Take a page out of boxing's book where they convince you a 30-0 fighter is the best on the planet. Take a page out of the Goldberg story. Build them up. And if that means a couple of Mickey Mouse, as Jacob will say, records, then let's get a couple Mickey Mouse records. Let's build somebody. Let's build them. Then we had the coiled snake. That is Kevin Vallejos. Saying the J is so weird. I want to say Vallejos, but it's Vallejos. He took on Seung Choi. I call him a coiled snake because he literally was just like wound real tight. And then anytime he's let his hands go, it's like power. Like just like boom. Super fast, fully loaded power. And honestly, couple of things here. So he was the first leg of the safety parlay, looked it, and I bet on him when he was -2 something, right? I think he closed at -6 something. He looked that too. What I will say is as athletic as he is, hence the back flip here or the front flip, as athletic as he is, as hard as he hits, as fast as he is, dude's hittable as fuck, and he's tiny. He is tiny. He's just a wee little thing. He's the smallest dude in his weight class, and that's going to catch up to him because he had Seung Choi, who had 1 win in his last 5 fights. A dude who's been chinned several times over, dotting his legs up, just chopping his legs up. And that's because Kevin, A, is small, and B, lots of weight on those legs. Kevin does not fight light on his toes. He lunges in. All of his weight goes to that front leg. Boom, kick it. Boom, kick. Like, he's very young. He's only 23. He only has 1 loss. It was to Jean Silva. coolest thing in the world was calling Jean Silva out after this. The dude only has one loss, and it's to a guy that's on an absolute tear right now in the UFC, and that's who he calls out. He could have called out anybody, could have said nothing. Could have just taken, I filmed this before the bonuses. I imagine he got a bonus. It seemed bonus worthy, but this card had a ton of finishes, so hard to tell. He could have said anything, but instead he calls out somebody who's already beat him, who has looked unbelievable. Frankly, Kevin can be a ton of fun, can be the real deal. I think he needs to drop some of this muscle and go down a weight class. I think he's too small for 145. I think he should be a 135 pounder. Drop some of this muscle. You'll keep the majority of the power. You've got the speed. Because the problem is, I don't know what his cardio is going to look like if he fights like a wrestler that makes him work. He's got too much muscle, and he's just a wee bit old man. But he looked great in this fight. Granted, he fought somebody that's 1-4 in his last 5. He fought somebody that's been knocked out many times. Wasn't the highest level fight. But he did look good in this fight. My big problems for him are the fact that his leg can get the shit kicked out of it. The fact that he's a little small. If he does fight Jean Silva's going to beat him again, if not worse. That's my take. Then we had the biggest fat loser dog shit fraud. Like, yeah, Diyar's like very handsome, like a good looking dude. That's probably why they signed him. And he was undefeated, great looking guy. But oh my God, is he bad. And the worst part about him being like dog shit is that that's not what the tape said. All we can ever do is watch tape. That's all we can do. We can just watch tape. If it's somebody who's fought in the UFC several times over, you have a good amount of tape. If it's somebody who's never fought in the UFC, well, hopefully they have enough fights on the regional scene that you could. Diyar had plenty of tape. Plenty of tape. He had 10 fights. Plenty of tape on all of them. And he fought good fighters. It's not like he beat a whole bunch of 2-30 people. If you run through his opponent's record, their records were all good. They were good fights. We saw him be a phenomenal wrestler. We saw him be a phenomenal striker. But he came out here after missing weight by 5 pounds. Here's the problem. So yes, he was the second half of the safety parlay. Here's the problem. And it's a situation. I created this safety parlay over a week ago, as I do. I break down fights way in advance. If you're premium members, you're seeing bets way in advance. There's bets for UFC London right now. There's bets for UFC 315 right now and UFC 314. There's future bets. Odds change. So I placed a safety parlay of Kevin and Diyar. I looked at it and I was like, you know what? The only round line I might like is the Sam Hughes one. But if I'm waiting to take Kevin with the Sam Hughes over, I don't know what Kevin's odds are going to be. They're certainly going to move. So I placed the bet, and the odds in the safety parlay are minus 123. Solid odds for what I thought were 2 young killers. And I got a DM today. Every Saturday is busy as shit. I get tons of DMs, tons of messages, everything from good luck today to what do you think of this bet to I forgot my password. How do I use this? How do I use that? A million messages on a Saturday. One of the messages was I have to start placing the safety parlay earlier because by the time I get to it, the odds are gone. So that's what happened today. You went to go play safety parlay. The odds were not gone. It was still a decent odds parlay, but it wasn't minus 123. And that's the situation because I want to place these bets early to get the value before the lines take off. But if I had waited and if I had seen the weigh-ins and I waited till Friday night or Saturday to place the safety parlay, I never in a million years would have put a dude who missed weight by 5 pounds and didn't give a shit in it. Never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever would I have done that ever. So that's sort of the weird situation. Obviously, the minute he lost weight, I was like, well, this guy doesn't care at all. And when he got in the cage, he looked like he didn't care at all. He didn't care. He was barely throwing anything. He got dropped early. He did survive that. Again, kind of throwing nothing. Turned into a wrestler. Got a nice little takedown. Like, okay, fine, camp out. We'll get this round back. And then is a wild Kimura. His shoulder might not be attached to the rest of his body anymore. The Kimura was insane. He made Brendson Ribeiro, who's not good. He made Brendson Ribeiro look like a top 10 guy. Brendson was landing the cleaner strikes. He had that phenomenal Kimura, was like confident. And I'm not saying Brendson Ribeiro sucks, but Brendson Ribeiro is 17-7. He's lost a lot. Brendson Ribeiro is not typically a guy that's going out there running through people. And he ran through this kid. He should be cut. This kid should be cut immediately. They honestly, you miss by 5 pounds, they should have cut him Friday night. They should not have let him continue. And I was glad they didn't cut him because I was like, all right, here we go. He's going to come out. He's going to win. I need it. Oh, man, they're going to cancel this fight. And then the parlays, the odds are going to suck. The reality is they should have cut him. Missing weight by 5 pounds and still being allowed to fight is absurd, especially in a UFC debut at a high weight class like this. Absurd. Cut him. Now you know he sucks. So what? There's no reason to keep him around. Literally none. He sucks. Yeah, he's good looking, but he sucks. He missed weight. Like, get rid of him. Get rid of him. There's plenty of other people that could use that spot. Then we had Damon Blackshear and Cody Gibson. This fight was a banger. This was an absolute exciting war of a fight that was really only 2 rounds. It wasn't very long, but it was an exciting fight. These guys went after it. There was success on both sides. Cody came at Damon, had success. Damon had success the other way around. This was reverse of what a lot of people thought it was going to be. It seemed as though Cody was winning the striking exchanges. He was having the better stand-up fight. And then it goes to the ground, and Damon is the better grappler and submits Cody. Literally the opposite of what most people thought. Most people thought Damon Blackshear is going to be the far better striker. Cody's going to start to shoot some takedowns. Damon will defend them and take over or something like that. If Cody gets a takedown, he'll be better on the ground. No, Damon Blackshear was losing the striking exchanges. Fight goes to the ground. He's the better grappler. He won by submission. This was a massive plus bet prop parlay that BetSam had on the board. And I just did a whole rant about how my safety parlay sucked. The not so. Thank God premium isn't just me. BetSam's been crushing it lately. And it's credit to him and his willingness to take chances. I sat here, gave you the 2 lady unders, never placed them, right? Too cowardly. BetSam sat there, put good money on a plus 300 prop bet that was like, dude, what are you doing? Pays off. Sometimes you just got to take some chances. It's also why premium is far more than just me. More than just Jacob. More than BetSam. More than Artem. There's tools. All sorts of shit. Then we had one of the worst decisions I've seen in a while. And you know what? Frankly, let me back that statement up a little bit. First, I do not agree with the decision. I thought Kurt won the first round. I thought Kurt won the second round. Definitely lost the third. Great. Wins the fight. That's what I thought happened. Kurt at one point knocked down Alexander Hernandez. I was like, oh, I slipped in my neck. No, you got knocked down. You got knocked down. He knocked down Alexander. He was rushing forward. All the damage was on the Alexander side. Like, this is him after they cleaned him up. He was swollen. He was bloody. He was cut up. Kurt did all the damage. Kurt had all the forward pressure. Kurt landed a gazillion strikes. The first round going to Alexander Hernandez on one judge's scorecard was fucking nuts. How the hell do you give Alexander Hernandez all 3 rounds? How do you do that? All 3 rounds is crazy work. I'm shocked this wasn't even a split. This was a unanimous decision. A 30-27, 229-28. That seemed crazy to me. Here's your scorecards. That seemed absolutely crazy to me. So it was Eric Colon that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. The second round going to Alexander Hernandez is nuts. The second round is where Kurt Holloway did all the damage, split him open, landing elbows, just making stuff happen. The only thing that happened in the second round in Alex's favor is he got a takedown late. And then a light bulb went off and he was like, oh shit, I should do more of this. And that's all the third round was. Third round was very clear Alexander Hernandez. Bunch of takedowns, bunch of control. Kurt had nothing to offer off his back. But the first round, the second round, any striking exchange, Kurt was moving forward, landing clean as hell, making stuff happen. Anything on the ground, Kurt had submission attempts. Like, Kurt was working everywhere. He did all the damage. You people love to sit there and tell me damage is the only thing that matters. Well, one of their faces was busted up and one of them was not. What's the problem? How could it have gone the other direction? I thought this was a bad decision, but worse than the decision itself. Because you know what? If it was a split for Alexander and it was 29-28, 29-28, 29-28, I actually wouldn't be as like, what the hell was that? It'd be like, you know, that was close. Because it was. But the fact that there was a 30-27 in the mix and not one single judge, not one judge saw it for Kurt is crazy work. That's nuts. Not one of you saw the bleeding face. Not one of you saw the kid getting backed up, touched against the cage, defending chokes. Not one of you. So I thought Kurt Hallball won this fight. At the very least, should have been 28 across the board. 29, 28, 1, 2, 3. Very minimum, very least. Good news is Alexander Hernandez did have moments where he looked really good. We've talked about how good he can be. We've talked about all his physical attributes, all of his skills. He just doesn't put it together. This is a fight where it didn't look like he was putting it together. You can beat Alex with volume. If Kurt had any semblance of takedown defense, which he does not, he would have won this fight. Problem is he can't defend a takedown. And the commentating team kept saying that. They're like, yeah, he's just, you want to beat him, just take him down and hold him there. That's how you're going to beat him. And that's literally what happened in the third round. Then we had the co-main event of the evening. This was a fun fight that turned pretty quickly. It was Liza Zaleski, Chidi Njokuani went at it. They were exchanging big strikes. Chidi was doing a lot of leg work, as he does, lots of kick from distance, just being fucking enormous. The guy is huge. Huge. Like, it's not even like he's super tall and like skinny as hell, but no, he's huge. He's tall and jacked. Like, none of it makes any sense. So he's all freaking enormous. And while being freaking enormous, he was landing at distance, making stuff happen. But Elizeu doesn't care. He comes in like a car crash, bombs away, hooks, moves forward, and he had Chidi wobbled. Like, he cracked Chidi early. Chidi was like that. Trying to keep consciousness, trying not to get knocked out. Elizeu Rush, he manages to survive. Second round comes out, knee right up the middle. Boom. And this is where you see Elizeu's age finally show up. Because yes, this knee went right up the middle. Yes, it did hit him, but it wasn't, I mean, you can kind of tell, right? We can still see his nose. So it wasn't boom, like smashed his face. It was kind of here off to the side. I know the temple is where you're going to get knocked out, but it wasn't like the biggest, cleanest knee you've ever seen. In the main event, there were far bigger, far cleaner shots that did nothing to nobody. So this was an interesting situation. Elizeu Zaleski is awesome to watch fight. He's a ton of fun, but he is 38 years old. We had not seen his age, and maybe I'm just being dramatic, and it's like, nah, dude, that knee would have been a problem for anybody at 170 pounds. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But, damn. It took a turn. We all thought Elizeu would win. He didn't. He did not win. He hit a big shot, and that was the end of that. And then we had the main event of the evening. This was a pretty fun fight. It wasn't wild. There was only one big moment in the entire fight. And it was actually Marvin almost finishing Roman in the... Okay, let me back up. It was Marvin rocking Roman. I think that was the third round. It definitely wasn't the fourth. I don't think it was the second. So I think that was the third round. Marvin landed clean. Nice little hook. Roman, like, it actually took a second to settle in because it hit and he was fine. And then all of a sudden he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Shoots the half-assest of half of an ass takedown, holds a leg, gets up, and then seemingly was fine after that. This fight was just a good old-fashioned slug fight. That's it. Wasn't sloppy, so you could err on the side of slugfest instead of slug fight. Slug fight is reserved for sloppy bullshit. This wasn't very sloppy. It was actually pretty clean. They were just throwing everything with 100% intent. Like, there were no jabs. And if there was, it was a woof. They threw everything with 100% intent. Couple of takeaways here. Coming into this, somebody told me, I'm not going to say who they are. They said it as well in the Discord to a lot of people. So anybody in the Discord should know who this is, or at least in the premium channel in the Discord. The person said, hey, I've got a friend. My friend is friends with Marvin Vettori. Like, they hang out. And he was in a sling as recent as like a month ago. Like, his shoulder's not good. He's fighting because he needs the money. I was like, okay. And then I said, but would you still pick and bet on Roman without that information? And he's like, yes, I'm on Roman no matter what. So I said, okay. So I took that information. I also was like, all right, I'm going to pick Roman here. A lot of it to me had to do with the Marvin Vettori layoff. 2 years away is a long time. Roman's been busier lately. His cardio problems seem to be fixed, and we saw that in this fight. Roman did not fade. His cardio seemed totally fine. I mean, he faded, but it's 25 minutes, and he's a middleweight. But nothing crazy. But it's hard to say if there was any issue with Marvin's shoulder. Now, the common misconception would be, well, he came out here and he was using it, so no. No, that's not how it would have manifested. He wouldn't come out here like this, not throwing a punch. It would have manifested with getting tired, not quite being as fast or as clean, because he wasn't able to train as hard as he should have trained because he wasn't 100%. And it was hard to tell because he did look different. He had some clean exchanges. He landed nice a few times. Physically, he looked good, like like magazine cover good. Not getting weird on you, just he's a good-looking dude. But he didn't seem his normal self. He didn't seem to have that same oomph. It wasn't until the 5th round that he really started trying to march forward. The first minute of the 5th round, he marched forward. He let his hands glow, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to steal this fight. It was a very close fight going into the 5th. It felt to me 2-2. It felt very close. This seemed to be a foregone conclusion to a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people on the commentating team even. If they felt like Roman was winning. The live odds had -260 going into the 5th. It felt 2-2 to me, and just a round earlier, Roman was rocked. The only meaningful thing that happened in this fight was Roman almost getting rocked. So I don't think Marvin necessarily had this debilitating, horrible injury that affected his performance, but something did affect his performance. It was probably the 2 years away. Literally, it's probably just the 2 full years away. Roman looked pretty good. What I hate about Roman is he'll just stand there and bomb. He will just move forward and bomb. There was no attempts to be the world-class grappler. And there was no changing of the game plan. He's got a good coach in Eric Nixick. Great coach in Eric Nixick. Merab Dvalishvili was in his corner, right? Georgian brothers. And nobody in that corner ever tried to change a game plan at all. Listen, it was 2-2 going in the 5th. I thought that was honestly best case scenario for Roman. And nobody was like, hey, you get him against the cage. At least fake a takedown. That'll set up your hands. When he got almost finished in the 3rd round, do you think anybody was like, hey, what I need you to do is crowd, get him to the cage, and maybe drag him? No, the corner advice was, I need more volume, and if you can't get to him, go in like a car crash. Go in like a car crash. You just watch the dude get rocked. You just watch him get closest to being knocked out that he's ever been. And the advice going into the 5th round was get in there like a car crash. I didn't get it. I genuinely didn't understand it. And he won this fight. I thought this decision was correct. Didn't seem controversial at all. I don't think anybody thinks it was controversial. But it is crazy that it wasn't the most straightforward fight in the world. It was a competitive fight. They were exchanging rounds. Roman Dolidze was almost in a very bad way at one point. And there was never a real attempt to grapple. And you know what? Some fighters are just pig-headed and refute. Fine. But the corners weren't giving that advice. There was never even a fake the takedowns. That'll open up. Nothing. It's crazy. So Roman got himself a nice win. I'm a big Roman Dolidze fan, so I'm rooting for him. I hope he gets an even a more favorable matchup, because Marvin Vettori's one of the worst matchups for Roman. He's got a head like a cinder block, which we saw in this fight. He'll strike with you, and he can grapple. Like it's actually a bad matchup for Roman, because he's not going to get him out of there. So this was great to see that Roman could go 25 minutes at a pretty reasonable pace. I don't know where this takes Marvin Vettori. Honestly, this is where the UFC does their fighters a disservice as well. Marvin Vettori is now on a little bit of a skid. Things are not going great for Marv. 2-year layoff. Hasn't had a win in like 3 years, but he's ranked in the world. And now Marvin Vettori is going to fight some other very highly ranked in the world fighter anyway, and they're just going to show highlight clips of him from 5 years ago when he was at his prime. What they need to do, give him a middle-of-the-road guy, an old guy. Give him somebody that he's going to beat so you can build him back up. That's the Damn it, UFC. Damn it. I love the product so much. I hate some of the decisions they make. Clip this, save this video, comment on it again next time Marvin Vettori's fighting, because I'll bet my life It's going to be somebody very good. Like somebody very good. And all the narrative, all the video clips are going to be from Marvin like 4 or 5 years ago. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be like an aging out middleweight. It's not going to be somebody that, he definitely should be able to be, and they're kind of hanging on for dear. It's not going to be like, let's get this guy a win. Hey, he's a good-looking dude. He's young. He has a pretty fun fight style because he will straight bang in that cage. He's got a good chin on him. Let's just get him a win. Let's get him a win. No, it's going to be a fight that he's probably going to lose. Then he's on a really bad streak. The confidence is gone. Then his next fight after that's going to be boring as hell because he's going to be shooting takedowns because he has no confidence and he knows he needs a win. And I just mapped out the rest of Marvin Vettori's career. If you do want to get a couple of bucks, we'll do it. We'll give you a promo. We have affiliate links. Use the affiliate links on the website. Click a few buttons. Make a new account. Make a deposit. We send you $50 as a thank you because they're going to pay us. So I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it back to you. You can become a premium member and you can access everything we do inside of the app. Just go to the app store, search We Want Picks. It's easy to sit here, and I'm you. I'm not me in this example. Sit here and be like, well, Angelo, this one bet missed. Angelo, this happened. The reality is, premium membership is not just some random loser's Patreon with 4 bets. That's not what it is. There's a ton of bets from multiple people. There's an artificial intelligence. There's a research tool where you can watch historical fights, look at data, add, remove filters. There's a DraftKings optimizer that will build DraftKings lineups. There's a fight simulator that simulates fights 100,000 times. It is not just 4 or 5 bets. It is an entire suite of tools and insight. There are picks. There are bets. There are some copy-paste things. There's also a lot of stuff that you can use to help find your spots. It is the most comprehensive, robust offering in this space. There is nothing remotely close, and it's only freaking $10. You do have an optimizer, a brand new one with an easy mode for people that are new to DraftKings Fantasy. We have that fight simulator I mentioned will simulate fights 100,000 times. And if you unlock premium membership, just go to WeWantPicks.com, click it's $10. It's $10. Here's the 4 events that you'll get for that $10. UFC 314, UFC Mexico, UFC London next week, and UFC Vegas 105. Guys, let me know what you thought of this card. It felt like a great card entertainment-wise. Felt like a really tricky card if you were rooting for a couple of favorites there. Thanks for everything. I appreciate every last one of you. Like, subscribe, and let's look forward to UFC London.